I figured it out. I figured it out. Let's see if we can welcome to the live edition. Let's put this up a little bit. There we go. NHL playoff. I've been getting a lot of feedback about my angle. I kind of like it. Playoff. I've been getting a lot of feedback about my. I'm getting some crosstalk here, but that's okay. I've been getting a lot of feedback about my. I'm getting some. Hold on here. No, I don't want to stop streaming. But that's okay. So, welcome to the two people. That's okay. So, welcome to the two people that have decided to join me on our journey of the NHL playoffs. Decided to join me on our journey of the NHL round one playoffs. Was interesting. Round two even more interesting. Round two. Turn my audio off. Then how are you guys going to hear me? Round two. Turn my audio off. Then how are you guys going to hear me? Turn my audio off. Then how are you guys going to hear me? Man. Man. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? This is why I need an assistant. Let's see what this sounds like. Hello. Let's see what this sounds like. Okay. Let me know if you can hear this. This is not... Okay. This is not the start that I had anticipated. Okay, let's do this. Let me know if you guys hear this. Give me a thumbs up. Oh, I'm good now. Okay. He was killed alive. The same thing happened to Jim Hopper's men. You set us up. The CIA, the cabinet minister, dropped 6 of us in the meat grinder. We good? Okay. I think we're good now. I hope we're good now. Welcome to the NHL Round 2 recap. Let's see, we'll go with the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Florida Panthers. And quite the upset. Once again, the upstart Florida Panthers have proved everyone wrong. The 8th seed in the first round beat the Boston Bruins, the team with the best record in regular season history. And in the second round, they beat the Toronto Maple Leafs pretty easily, 4-1. So now they go on to face the Carolina Hurricanes, who beat the New Jersey Devils. And, you know, Carolina's looking real good right now. So this is going to be a fantastic playoff series. Carolina's got it all, man. Big, fast, good goaltending, veterans, rookies, young studs. I would say on the average, Florida has a slightly more veteran crew. And there's something about Florida that makes me believe in them. I'm picking Florida out of the remaining 4 teams to win the Stanley Cup. And I've said it before, they very much remind me of the LA Kings 2 cup winning teams in 2012 and 2014. They're not the best team in the league in terms of star players. I mean, outside of Kachuk, they don't really have a team that makes you go, oh my God, that Sam Bennett's amazing. He's kind of like their Dustin Brown. You've got Barkov, who's in my opinion, he's kind of like Kopitar. And Bobrovsky I kind of like him. He's got a vibe to him that, he was kind of got a lot of shit because he signed that huge contract, and then the Panthers drafted Spencer Knight. But he's kind of stalled out with some personal problems, and he's had a bit of a resurgence in the playoffs, and it's going to be a fantastic series. I think it'll be physical. I think Florida has to play physical, slow Carolina down a little bit. But I'm going to pick the Florida Panthers. I think it's going to go 7. And Carolina's not the best on the road. Great at home, not so good on the road. So I think it'll be real interesting. I mean, Florida's going to have to steal one in Carolina. That's going to be tough. That's a great crowd. But they just seem like a team of destiny right now. And going to be real interesting to see. We'll cover the losing teams too. What's going to happen with Toronto? I think there were 3 teams this year that went all in terms of the playoffs and signing people and trading for people. And Toronto probably was the number 1 team that, they went out, they got O'Reilly, Achari, other players, and it just didn't work. It's, Dubas, I can't really blame him. He went all in, and it just did not work out. And in that market, you're gone if it doesn't work out, especially with Austin Matthews. And this is the last year of his contract, this upcoming season. And, all kinds of rumors about his, where he'll play in a year. I'm sure he likes playing in Toronto and wants to stay there because they're a good team. But, I'm sure Arizona, which is where he's from, would love to have him in that new building if they ever get that built. And with Kopitar, who knows where he'll be in a year, to be honest. So, if Kopitar were to retire, say at the end of next year, and he's still got some gas in the tank, but if he were to retire, his $11 million would look real good on Austin Matthews' contract. I'm not trying to start a rumor, but or you could sign with the Maple Leafs another extension, and that cancels all that. So, but the Maple Leafs are going to be a very interesting team to watch. And then on the other side of the fence, we had the Vegas Golden Knights. I mean, I can't say they upset the Edmonton Oilers. I mean, they finished ahead of Edmonton, but I think when you looked and saw how McDavid and Draisaitl and Bouchard were playing, I think you'd have to favor them going into that series. I mean, McDavid is just playing on another level, and Draisaitl as well. And they're another team like Toronto, like the LA Kings. They went all in at the deadline, and now there's some interesting questions in regards to them. What do they do? I think Skinner was pulled 4 times in the last 12 games. That ain't good. So, it's going to be quite the off season. This is now McDavid's, I think 9th season in the league. And, the clock is ticking. I mean, he's in his prime right now. So is Draisaitl. And you're just kind of, you're wasting their best years. And I thought it was interesting, in round 1, the Kings kind of almost played a 1-3-1 trap against McDavid. It's like, all right, bro, if you're going to beat us, you're going to have to go through all 5 of us. And he usually did. But Vegas kind of did the opposite, where they attacked Edmonton. And yes, they gave up a lot of chances. But I think they realized a weakness in Edmonton's defense with Ceci and Nurse and Desjardins, that they're slow. And, okay, we're going to give some chances to McDavid and Draisaitl, but with those 3 specifically on the Oilers' back end, we're going to get ours too. And, Adin Hill, the Knights have 4 good goaltenders. So I don't think I've ever seen that before. And Brossoit got hurt, and the backup right now is Jonathan Quick. He's a pretty good backup. Now, would I feel comfortable with Jonathan Quick right now, saying he's going to win 16 games to win the Stanley Cup? Probably not. I mean, he's definitely at the tail end of his career. But if the Knights somehow get to the Stanley Cup Finals, I could see Quick stealing a round. But they got to get through Dallas first, who won last night 2-1 against the Seattle Kraken. And, Seattle, they were a team of destiny. But, they just, they ran out. They ran out of steam, for a second-year team. No, Dominic, this is a second round. I did just wake up, to be honest with you, which is why it took me 4 minutes to get this thing going. My bad. I don't have a producer. I'm a one-man operation. So, I'm doing my best. I think the first 3 minutes of this video were me trying to figure out how to get the live stream started. But that's part of my charm. And here we are. So we're talking about the matchup now between the Dallas Stars and the Vegas Golden Knights. This is going to be a great series. I think this is another 7-gamer. I'm going to pick Vegas because I think they have the more offensive firepower. And, but I'm really excited for the Seattle Kraken because they got a lot of young kids coming in. They drafted very well in the brief time they've been in the league. And, people kind of forget they have Shane Wright coming in hopefully next year. And he was, most people thought he was the clear-cut number 1 of the draft, and he ended up slipping to number 4 because the teams 1 through 3, I think it was Montreal, Jersey, and another team, they didn't really need a center. So the Kraken lucked out. And the glare he gave the Montreal table, I think, was a pretty good sign that this kid's hungry. And, he had a pretty good year this year. And so that's another gem they have coming in next year. And they have a good team. It's young, fast. Their defense is good. And, Grubauer, I think, definitely, the first year of the Kraken, they didn't exactly, Grubauer didn't have a great season, but I think it was a work in progress for the whole team and the organization. And they've now gotten it back. And hopefully they can, continue building. I think they've got room to, maybe make one big swing at a decent free agent, although this year's UFAs are a little weak. So it's going to be interesting to see how they maneuver. I'm predicting a Stanley Cup final of Florida and the Vegas Golden Knights. The 2 places where Jews go to retire. That's what I'm predicting, Mr. B. And then, we'll get to that prediction in the next hockey video. But, it could just as easily be, Dallas and Carolina. It's kind of a rating stinker, I think, from the NHL perspective of, those aren't exactly hockey hotbed markets, but I think that all 4 cities are good hockey crowds. So, I think, Florida, unfortunately, in terms of a hockey city, they have to be winning or else the crowds are a little iffy. But, obviously they are. Carolina is a great hockey town. That's a great sports town. They would support a winning lacrosse team. And then Vegas is I didn't think Vegas would be a good hockey town just from the standpoint of, I thought a lot of the tickets would be, free tickets to gamblers, and the casinos don't want gamblers watching a hockey game. They want them betting on the hockey game in the casino and then playing blackjack and poker. So, but they have a fantastic fan base in Dallas. I think the timing's right for Dallas because the Cowboys aren't who they usually are, and the Mavericks don't they don't have that wow factor that they used to. So I think the time is right for the Cowboys, and with the Cowboys and the Mavericks being in a bit of a funk, for the Stars to at least temporarily take over Dallas as a sports the team to go, hey, the Stars are playing, let's go, or hey, the Stars game's on TV, let's watch it. It's kind of similar to when the Kings won the Cup. Um, that the Lakers weren't really doing well, and the Angels and Dodgers were just kind of blah. And I mean, this will always be a Dodger city, even if they're losing. The Clippers weren't doing great, so the Kings were like the talk of the city. And speaking of the Kings, we'll do a little recap with what the Kings plan on doing this summer. It's going to be a very, very interesting time for King fans. They went all in, with the trading of Quick to Columbus to get and a number one pick, or not a number one pick, but a first round pick to get Gavrikov and Korpisalo. I would say both additions were welcome. I mean, Korpisalo, you could argue maybe on the Hyman goal in overtime, he not should have stopped it, but maybe could have stopped it. But there's plenty. I was at that game actually, and when the Kings were up 3-0 in the first period, toward the end of the first period, Korpisalo made like 2 or 3 amazing saves. It should have been a goal or goals. So I don't have a problem with how he played. Frankly, they don't win one game if he doesn't play as good as he was playing. So if they don't re-sign him, they're in a bit of a pickle because you've got Copley. They signed to a 1-year deal, so he'll be back for sure. And people kind of forget we have Cal Peterson in Ontario, and I think the Kings, especially Rob Blake, they want him to succeed. So I think he'll be given every opportunity to succeed. And his contract is pretty big. I think it's $5 million. So you're going to have a tough time trading him if you don't like him. If you think Copley's the better option, and I'm sure they'll try and re-sign Korpisalo, but the Kings are in a bit of a cat pickle, because a lot of these young kids are coming off the books, and well, we'll get to that in a second, Dark Globe. We'll talk about the Kings just a little bit more. So the Kings are going to be, I think, one of the more interesting teams to follow in the off season, because, like I said, they've got questions really in every area. They finally, I mean, their time is now. I mean, they are in a win now mode, and I think they're young. So, I think the next 3 to 5 seasons is their window. So, we've covered the goaltending. I'm sure they're going to try and sign Korpisalo. And, I think if you're him, you kind of like playing in LA. I mean, it's a good team. And it's a great place to play. You kind of get the best of both worlds here, where there's a great fan base, but you're also a little bit of anonymity here. You can go out and you can go to dinner or the supermarket or the gas station. You're not going to be hounded by hockey fans. Whereas can you imagine Connor McDavid in Edmonton? He probably literally can't go to the liquor store without signing 5 autographs or pictures. So, and then you get to the Kings defense. At the season's end, the defense was Anderson, Doughty, Roy, Gavrikov, and then the bottom 2 were 2 of these 3, Dursey, Walker, and Edler. Now, Edler might retire, so, but he kind of hinted that he might not. I don't know if the Kings would bring him back. I like how he played. For 37, he rarely got burned, and he's a really smart player. But I don't know if the Kings want to bring in a 37, 38-year-old guy at this juncture, because you've also got Brant Clark coming in, who most people will say was the best defenseman in the OHL and probably all of junior hockey. I mean, he's like a young Doughty. I think the Kings have visions of
him being our Cale Makar. So, someone's got to go. Um, I you know, I don't think the Kings are going to bring him in to be a seventh defenseman. So let's assume, and they also have to re-sign Gavrikov. That's a huge thing. So if you lose Gavrikov and Edler, then you could probably run with the defense of Doughty, Anderson, Roy Dursey, Walker, Clark. You probably want a veteran D-man, like a Gudis type. But that all depends on if you're signing Gavrikov, which I think they're going to try. Rumors on the street in LA is that they're talking extension because he really did play well in the playoffs for us. So it'll be interesting. It's kind of up in the air on defense, and then when you look at the offensive group up front, you've got pretty much the same cast of characters. The first line more than likely next year will be Byfield, Kopitar, and Kempe. I think Kempe and Kopitar had great years, especially Kempe. Byfield's, there's got to be concern about his development. Not high, John, not high. He just hasn't progressed, and unfortunately for him, he came into the league during COVID. He then breaks his ankle. So, he shows you flashes. There was a play, I think, on an Arvidsson goal in the first round where the whole play was set up by Byfield's speed. It was really amazing. And then there's stretches where he looks lost, with the pace of the game. So I think, I think he was drafted basically to be Kopitar's eventual replacement. And right now, I think both he, his agent, and the Kings are probably like, we're not where we thought we'd be. But he's only 20. So I laugh at the people who call him a bust. And then you get to the second line, which is, a very consistent line. Moore, Arvidsson, they're consistent. Third line is Fiala bounces around, from the second, really from the first, second, and third line. The third line, Iafallo. He's just consistent. He's very, very, he just does what he's told. He's the perfect complement on any line. And then, Lazat, has kind of come into his own, although he was hurt in the playoffs. And then the fourth line is kind of a mystery line, right now. Kaliev, he's almost in that Byfield zone of, his third year in the league now. And, he's got the shot. That's unarguable. I think he was second on the team in power play goals, and he got slop duty on the power play. So, I think it's a big summer, and thank you, Nick. Big summer, It's a big summer for Kaliev and Byfield, but I think Kaliev reminds me of Brett Hull when he was in Calgary. It's just like you see the shot, you see the potential, and it's just like, what do we do? It's not fully coming together. Kapari, I thought, played real well in the playoffs. I don't know if they drafted him to be a fourth line center. Thank you, Ron. But he came into his own, I think, in the playoffs. Probably the most disappointing fourth line player was McEwen, who was basically Brendan Lemieux's replacement. He just he didn't have a great playoffs, and he, I think, we almost saw the same problems this year against Edmonton that we saw last year, which was, the Kings, although not a small team, I don't know if they're the most physically aggressive team. So, McEwen, I think, was brought in to be essentially the Lemieux with no problems. He's Lemieux 2.0, where I think Lemieux was, I love Brendan Lemieux as a player. And am I saying we would have beat the Oilers with him in the lineup? No, we probably wouldn't have. But you definitely missed his energy. And Grunstrom, I thought was Grunstrom. He's like that guy. You could put him on the first line. You could put him on the fourth line. He will give you the same game. He's a fantastic checker. And yes, Sal's Comedy Hole is open for business if you have the right permits. I always thought that place was a money laundering place. So, there's questions in the Kings forward group. And, you got some kids coming in. What do you do with Jared Anderson-Dolan? He's out of waiver exemptions. So he's either on the roster or he's got to pass through waivers. Akil Thomas, who I love. But, he's been injured. I did cover Vegas and Edmonton. I'm going Vegas in 7 and against Dallas, but I did cover that series already. So, there will be some competition in camp because you're going to, this year they kind of were able to hide a little bit Anderson-Dolan, but I think he showed enough in the regular season that if you put him on waivers, he will be swooped up. And hopefully Velarde's gets through whatever he was going through. You could tell he was kind of laboring, but he's so good. So, and I thought him and Fiala had great chemistry. And I think Velarde has top 5 hands in the league. I'm not saying he's a top 5 player. I'm just saying his hands. Some of the goals he scores are like, wow. So he's another fly in the ointment, because I do think that both Velarde and Fiala, it's not an excuse, it's just a reality that they were both injured to some degree. Because you could tell both were laboring a little bit. If both of them are 100%, I do think we beat Edmonton. But they weren't. And Edmonton, you got to give them credit. Because Edmonton's bottom 6, Costin and, Yamamoto, they played really good. And I thought going into that series that the Kings' bottom 6 would play better than Edmonton's bottom 6. And they didn't. That's why you play the games. So it's going to be interesting, in terms of who the Kings are going to lose to the waivers. Because I don't know if these guys have a lot of trade value. I don't know what you could get for Anderson-Dolan. Akil Thomas, I really like him. Like, he's good, but he just hasn't been healthy. He's out of waivers this year. Yes, I'm working on it, Ron. I'm trying to throw stuff against the wall, see what works, see what doesn't. I've done some of these late night at literally like 2 a.m. my time, and they were some of my more popular videos view-wise. And then I would think that, what time is it now? It's 12:45 for me right now in LA, that these would be popular, and some of these in the afternoon don't do that well, frankly. So it's, it's a work in progress. But I also think, since I'm being a little more active on YouTube, that, the numbers shall organically grow. But getting back to some of the Kings and some of the youth that I think will get some chances this year, which puts a little bit of pressure on, I think Byfield is a very long rope. I think Kaliev, they're probably going, hey, dude, we got this kid, Chromiak, he had a good year in the AHL, he's going to get a chance. Probably a little too young to play in the NHL full time, but, he looks like he could be an option. Fagimo. I still don't know if you call him Fagimo or Fagimo. He looks like he could be a good fourth line NHL player, like maybe the next Trevor Lewis. And then I like the Finnish kid, Simon Taival. So, yeah, I mean, William, yeah, 100%. But then, you can make the argument that people are sleeping at 2 in the morning, especially that's 5 in the morning, my time, on the East Coast or in Australia. So, I'm trying, I think one of the things that really helps your numbers is like with Chad Zumach and Kevin Brennan and all the shows on the Shuley Network, that they're at a certain time. Like, in 15 minutes, Kevin Brennan comes on, bam, 1 o'clock. Chad Zumach, 12:55, bam. So I'm trying to still play with the times before I go, bam, set time, bingo. So, getting back to the Kings, and McClellan, I think, is up for a new contract. That's going to be interesting because, the Kings have had a good last 2 years under him, but they haven't won. And that's the bottom line. And there are some coaches, I think Quenneville is probably getting back in the league's good graces where he could be brought in. I'm not saying for the Kings necessarily, but he's going to be out there. Gerard Gallant. Thank you, Ian Hawk. I'm sorry that you're bored. You're bored of this, or you're just bored in general? Because I could see you being bored of this if you're not a hockey fan. I'm East Coast. As a Vegas fan, will work in the morning games. Well, I know that was the big rub, if you will, with the Edmonton game Sunday night, that it started at, I think, 7 p.m. Edmonton time. So it was, 10 p.m., 10:30-ish in the East Coast. But, fuck, it's the West Coast. I do find it strange that they stuck to the nighttime time because there was no other games that day. So you could have done it at 4:30. But, okay. Thank you, Ian. I know you're a big financial supporter of everyone. I do appreciate you supporting my friends. And I'm slowly getting my way to Super Chat land, but I can promise you guys this, the 7 people listening. I will never ask you for Super Chat money. I will never beg for your money. My attitude will be, I will read every chat. And, if you want to pay for my time in doing these, great. If not, I'm still going to do them. So that's the one thing I don't like about the podcast wars. That it seems to be online panhandling. Give me money, give me money, give me money, give me money. I will not do that because I make more than enough money in my voiceover career and stand up to not have to turn this into a Jerry Lewis telethon. But hey, it is a great way to make money from home. That's why plenty of the people in the podcast wars, they don't have big stand-up road schedules because you can make as much, if not probably more money doing a live stream than you can traveling to the other end of the country. And I am a man of the people because I do have a small fan base. Well, but sure, I'm not trying to discourage people from giving me money, but I just, because I realize that, there's, we all kind of share the same fans, and so a lot of the same fans donate to Chad, to Kevin, to the Shuley Network. And now you've got me slowly getting close to being able to receive super chats, and times are tight in this world. Thank you, Ron, very much. My Patreon is done not as a joke. I mean, I think if you go on my Patreon and it's just Earl Skakel, I offer more than most people. And although Kevin Brennan makes fun of me for only having 11 uh, Patreon members, uh, I don't do it for the money. I'm almost on Patreon out of curiosity of if I provide a good service and good content, do people think that's worthy enough to pay for? I would love to have what Kevin has, 900 Patreon members, or that Brian Johnson, uh, I think he has 7,000 Patreon members, and Tim Dillon is like killing it on Patreon. Uh, I'm about to hop off, Ian, because I don't want to. It's 12:52. I know Chad's going live in 3 minutes, and then Kevin in around 8. So I don't like to take. I mean, I'm not. I've got 7 people watching, so I don't want. Detroit's the best. She's a Patreon member. I've got 8 people watching, but I'm sure all 8 will jump into Chad and Kevin's stream. So I'm certainly no competition for those guys, but I'll give my plugs now, and I think you guys all know them. Just at Earl Skakel everywhere, even on TikTok, and sub to the YouTube. That helps crack the algorithm and stuff like that. And then Patreon, just Earl Skakel. It's 2 levels, $5 and $20, and I think you get a lot for what you pay. And if you're in the LA area, just DM me on Instagram at Earl Skakel. I'll take care of you at the Comedy Store. And sorry about the rough start to this video. There were some audio technicalities. And support all my friends. Zumach, Brennan, the Shuley Network, all that stuff. Insufferable Bastards, and whoever else I'm leaving out. Earl Skakel, wearing my new Sean Spears t-shirt. Follow Sean Spears. He's a wrestler in AEW. And I love you, Dominic. Thank you, as always, for the retweets and whatnot. And thank you guys for listening. And, I'm a comedy soldier. Skakel, over and out. Rat and roll.